All right, let's jump right in. In this explainer, we're going to break down some really key ideas in mental health. We're going to go all the way from the challenges people face to the very real pathways for change. And we'll use these slides to help make it all make sense.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about what separates everyday sadness from something like clinical depression. Then we'll zoom out to see the bigger picture of different challenges. After that, we'll look at the role of a counselor, dig into some of the tools they use, and wrap up with what it all means for understanding and finding help. First up, we're tackling a big one. We all feel sad. It's part of being human. But when does that feeling cross a line into something else entirely? That's what we're going to explore right now. And this, right here, is the million-dollar question. I mean, getting this distinction right is absolutely foundational to understanding mental health. So, what really sets them apart? Okay, here's the core difference, and it's a huge one. Sadness, it's a feeling. It's temporary, it's usually tied to something specific, and you can still cope. But clinical depression, that's a physical illness. It sticks around, sometimes for no clear reason, and it can feel completely overwhelming. It's like you can't just snap out of depression any more than you could snap out of the flu. And this is how we know it's a defined medical condition. A diagnosis isn't based on just, feeling down. It's actually really specific. You need a certain number of symptoms, like fatigue or trouble concentrating, and they have to be there consistently for at least 2 weeks. It's not a vague feeling. It is a concrete, diagnosable illness. But of course, major depression is just one piece of a much, much bigger puzzle. The world of mental health is this huge spectrum of challenges, so let's widen our lens a bit. For example, take something called dysthymic disorder. Now, this isn't about those deep, intense episodes. It's more of a chronic, low-grade feeling of depression that can just linger for years. For someone living with this, that feeling of being down can actually start to feel like their version of normal. And then there are other challenges that are less about mood and more about these really ingrained, inflexible patterns of behavior. Personality disorders can affect how a person thinks, feels, and relates to other people, which, as you can imagine, causes a lot of problems in their life. And to make this real, our source material gives us this story of Sunitha. Her experience, the unstable moods, the self-harm, that persistent feeling of emptiness, it gives a human face to what a condition like borderline personality disorder can actually feel like. So, with all these complex issues, you're probably asking, well, who helps people navigate all this? And that brings us to the absolutely crucial role of a counselor. Okay, let's get one thing straight. Counseling is not about someone telling you what to do. It's a process, a partnership, really. The whole point is to empower you, the client, to sort things out for yourself and learn new ways of thinking, feeling, and behaving. And, it's a bit different from psychotherapy. There's definitely some overlap, but counseling tends to focus more on growth and handling more immediate life concerns. Psychotherapy often goes deeper, looking at the past to work on more serious, long-term internal conflicts. So what actually makes counseling work? Well, it pretty much boils down to these 3 things. The counselor has to be empathetic, trying to see the world through your eyes. They have to accept you for who you are, no judgment, and they have to be real, genuine, and authentic. That foundation of trust is everything. Okay, so how does that change actually happen in the therapy room? Well, counselors have this whole toolkit of different approaches. Let's look at 2 really different but super influential ways of thinking about it. So you've got the classic psychoanalytic view. The basic idea here is that our struggles today often come from unresolved stuff in our past. And to cope, our brains create these unconscious defense mechanisms, like pushing down bad memories or blaming someone else for our own feelings, and sometimes those defenses end up causing more harm than good. Now let's look at a completely different angle, cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. This approach says it's not the events in our lives that upset us, it's our beliefs about them. Look at this ABC model. The activating event, your friend not calling back, doesn't automatically lead to the consequence of feeling anxious. It's the B, the belief, in the middle, they must be angry with me, that's doing all the work. So the whole point of CBT is to help you spot and challenge these unhelpful thinking patterns, which they call cognitive errors. A really common one is black and white thinking, right? If I'm not perfect, I'm a total failure. Learning to see the gray areas, well, that can literally change your life. Whew, okay, we have covered a ton of ground here. from what these challenges look like to the different ways we can approach them. So, what's the big takeaway? What's the one thing you really need to remember from all this? It's this, right here. Mental health can feel messy and confusing for sure, but these conditions aren't random mysteries. They're understandable, they're treatable, and most important of all, there are clear, effective paths to feeling better. Hope is real. And if you or someone you know ever thinks about counseling, this is what that path looks like. It's not something that just happens to you. It's active. It's about working together to figure out what's going on, set some goals, and build new skills. You are in the driver's seat of your own journey. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. We've seen that understanding these conditions is the first step, but challenging our own assumptions and the stigma out there, that's how we create real, lasting change for ourselves and for everyone.